cracking up. Anyway, hi. Um, I was too lazy. Maybe I'll hold the phone over here. I was too lazy to set up my little vlogging station. That's pretty lazy. You got to be pretty lazy not to do that. So anyway, I'm sitting in the living room. This is my Nashville picture. You can see it. I took that. Photography is a hobby of mine. I don't know if I've ever said that. Yeah. Anyway, I enjoy taking pictures of architecture. Not so much people, although I don't mind people, but people are unpredictable, which I don't like. Where buildings don't move, they don't blink. Like, anyway. So I just got done training a little while ago, and then my little nephew called. He enjoys calling me. He's 3. He's almost 4. He'll be 4 in June. Um, he enjoys calling me on Facebook Messenger, and I also have a portal. He had gotten a portal for Christmas, and so I got one too because I was like, this is really cool. And you can read stories and stuff on it to to the person on the other side, like the little person. It's very interactive. I think it would also be like, my little nephew is my best friend's little boy, and then I have a nephew too that's my brother's son. So 2 different people, although the same age. Augie will be 4 in April, and Beckett will be 4 in June. And Augie is my brother's son. And so they had gotten his great grandma a portal. And she lives in like an assisted living type of a situation deal moment. And she lives in like Ohio. So she's pretty far away from us. Not, I mean, it's not terrible, but so they got her one. And so it's really easy for her to use. And so, yeah, so if you're looking for an idea, the Facebook portal, you do have to have Facebook Messenger or have like a Facebook account in order to use it. I'm pretty sure that's a requirement. Maybe just Messenger though, like you wouldn't have to necessarily be active on Facebook, but you could have an account and just link your portal to it. So it is really cool. It's really fun for kids because you can, like I said, you can read stories and do stuff with them, and you can use different filters. Yeah, it's really fun. So he called me. So we chatted, and it was me talking to his mom. He gets. I think he like loves the idea of like talking to people, but then when he realizes it's like, oh, I have to commit to this, like, it becomes a little bit challenging for him. But he's adorable, and I love the shit out of him, and it's yeah, and so they might come over this weekend, which would be kind of cool because I haven't seen them in, I think it's been since Christmas, so it's been a while since I've seen them. And then yeah, so talked to him. Training went good. I did, just some warm up and some general stuff, and then I did this workout right here. I will post that there for you. I felt pretty sluggish today. Yeah, it's just a lot, right? Like there's just a lot going on, and work was pretty good though. Like I was dreading going back to work today, dreading it, but it was pretty good. Yeah, it was pretty good. And then just trying to like sign off at 5 o'clock, and or 5:30, and just be done and get to stuff the next day. Otherwise, like I find that I've been really overwhelmed with very simple tasks, I guess you could say, and I don't get overwhelmed, so it's really weird for me to feel like like the feeling of like I don't know where to start with this, and even simple things like just like, and I've noticed this obviously in the last like week and a half or so, a week or whatever the hell it's been. Like just simple stuff like getting dressed in the morning was like over the weekend, was kind of like I don't want to do this, or just like hygiene, right? And like brushing my teeth seemed to be like I just didn't want to do it. It's so strange. And then I found this girl, and her name is Maddy something, and I don't know what her last name is, but I will link her channel below. She is doing a recovery journey from anorexia on YouTube, and she experiences very similar things. with like, as kind of part of like, I guess is it depression? It's anxiety. It's something just like, feeling like you don't want to do things and take care of yourself or whatever. And she had actually done this whole like vloggy thing on like self care and stuff. And it was very funny. And it was just, there's a lot of humor in it and stuff. And, doing things that she would never normally do, and she had like this expired face mask or something. I mean, it was hilarious. She did a really nice job with it. It was very funny. And she's just very real, and she's just like, oh, I put this stuff on my feet and this sucks and I hope my skin doesn't melt off. So, but I'll link her below because she's actually pretty good. She has a nice, little channel and stuff. So if you're interested in that type of stuff, like definitely go check her out. And there's another one that I found too, like this guy it's in North Philadelphia or in Philadelphia. It's AML videos or productions or movies or something, but he goes out to this place called Kensington and he interviews people that, are, drug addicted, living on the streets, all this stuff. And holy shit, man, did I get sucked into that this weekend. And like watching all of these little like short documentaries on these people, I would say definitely a trigger warning if you have struggled with addiction or have a loved one who is actively struggling with addiction or participating in their addiction, or maybe is homeless or struggling with mental health issues and stuff. And it can be really difficult to watch, especially like there's people of all different ages and, stuff like that. And it's so awful, like, to see some of these people who you can tell are really, really smart, and they just have gotten sucked into this life, but it's this area in Philly. I'm pretty sure it's Philly, where it's just like overrun with drugs and stuff. And and it's not heroin anymore, which is what I just assumed, right, was still kind of available. It's that fentanyl shit. And I didn't realize that it was like being cut with stuff like battery acid and awful things, and so this is a miserable existence. And so it's really interesting. It's really, really interesting. So if you're interested in that, I'll link that down below too. You guys can take a look at it. That's pretty heavy though, so I wouldn't watch it if you are not in the right frame of mind to watch that, because it's going to hit close to home if you've ever experienced those types of things. And so but yeah, so I'll link those two below. A little bit heavier conversation, a little bit heavier topics, but yeah, two things that I found that I do enjoy. And then obviously I've caught up now with all my favorites, Shakara Transformations and also Pulpy Syntax, and Jamie French. I think she just did a new one last week too. Yeah. So, but yeah, so kind of getting back into a normal routine, which is good. I am still continuing with my Wednesday weigh-in. My weight's actually been very stable the last couple weeks. I know it's been weird. Like, you're like, oh, how is that possible? So one thing I've learned through all of this is that I am not an emotional eater, and I always thought that I was, but then I realized that I eat when I'm happy, apparently not when I'm sad. So, which can also be problematic, right? Like if you associate food with emotion and stuff, and I definitely do. But yeah, so on the 5th, right, like, or really probably the 4th, I let the person that I do my nutrition with for CrossFit, that I, kind of what was going on. And my dad was in hospice and he was, getting ready to get off this flying rock. And, and we decided at that time to do what we call a diet break. And I want to talk about that just a little bit for you, those of you who don't know what that is. And some of you who do, this will not be new to you. But a diet break is not a free-for-all. It is very planned out. It's very methodical. And what it is you just slowly over the course of, it could be weeks, months, bodybuilders will do this, right? And it's not really a diet break with them. It's just that they are kind of refeeding after a show. And the goal is not to go completely off the wagon, right, and gain 100 pounds in 3 months. Like, that's not the goal. It's to just push up your food slowly after your show, or if you're just diet breaking, which is a normal thing for people when they're in a cut, right, in a deficit for a prolonged period of time. It's good to take a break. And it doesn't mean you just eat whatever you want, but you just slowly increase your food until your weight is no longer stable. So like, You just want to keep your weight kind of where it's at, maybe a pound up, pound down, whatever, and just push that, that amount of calories or whatever it is, if it's macros or whatever, which obviously equates to calories, but you get my drift, until you are either gaining, right, or your weight's just no longer stable. And so we decided to do that, just to take some pressure off the situation, right? And it is difficult to be dialed in with your nutrition on a good day. It is even harder sometimes to be dialed in when things are very chaotic, and things were very chaotic for me for about 6 days. Like, it was, it's been chaotic for me for a month, let's be honest. But, from like the 3rd all the way until like really until the 10th, it was pretty gross. And so we decided to just go ahead and do that. And my weight's been pretty good. So I've been trending in that like 184 range, 183, 184, since then, which is really good. Like, considering that my training was very irregular for over a week, and my nutrition was kind of all over the place too. And nothing terrible, but just inconsistent and different than what I normally would be doing, right? So I have enjoyed a little bit of a break from that. I'm still obviously tracking every day, and it doesn't matter what it is. I put it in. Like, I got over that kind of, if I don't put it in, it didn't happen. And, I stopped doing that a number of years ago. And that's a really good skill to kind of develop, is not to be afraid to put it in your tracker and see it. And, and just, because if you don't put it in there, right, like, then you can kind of pretend like, oh, I didn't really eat that yesterday. Well, when you did, and it's just, and it's okay, right? Because it doesn't mean anything. It's just for informational purposes only. So I think we are going to start up again probably next week. I was ready to go now, and he's like, why don't we just leave you alone for one more week and then start next week? So next week also, on Monday, I'm all over the place. I'm not good at this. This is why I will never be a famous YouTuber. Although I'm really intrigued by their setups, like with their cameras and like all of their like monitors and stuff. I'm like, this is pretty legit, but this is why I will never do this for a living. Anyway, so I am going back to CrossFit full time. Ta-da! I didn't think that was ever going to be a thing, and I'll tell you why. I did CrossFit full time, really for 4 years, and you're talking like 6 days a week, and I still train almost every day, right? I lift every day, not always conditioning every day, but I really, for the last now almost year, I really enjoyed like the break from that style of training all the time. And, and I just kind of pepper it in, a few times a week here with conditioning and stuff, and then focusing on more strength stuff. And when I was home, helping with my dad, and this is before I knew, obviously, my dad was going to pass, I had reached out to the owner of a CrossFit box that's near my house, and I said, I'd like to join. I'm up north with my dad. Like, I'm thinking I'll be back, probably April 1st for a little while, and she was like, come on over. And so I've been to this box before. I went there last summer and visited them. It's like 2.5 miles from my house. So nice place, close by. That's what I need. Proximity is everything, because you never need an excuse not to go, although I don't struggle with that. But so I'm going to do that. And CrossFit kicks you in the dick. Like, not to not be ladylike, but it does. And it was really nice over the last year or so. Like, I, obviously this time last year we were already online. I was doing CrossFit in my living room, so, so it was, and then I moved in June. So it's been almost a year. And it has been a year since I've been in a box. And so I was missing the community aspect of it, and also missing just some of the coaching, right? Because you can do a lot on your own, and I'm pretty knowledgeable, and obviously like my best friend's a coach, like, I have unlimited resources. I'm very fortunate like that. But there's a difference between like, coaching yourself, right? And then having a coach there to just kind of help you with some stuff. So I am looking forward to that. I think it's going to be really fun. And just now that the weather's getting a little nicer, it'll be nice to get out of the house. Speaking of weather, it is snowing. And it started snowing 3 hours later than they said it was going to snow. And so I'm disappointed. But I'm pretty stoked about it. Although I had turned the heat off because it had been like almost 70 here for like a week. Um, and it wasn't getting cold at night. And so today I had no idea that it was only 22 degrees out until I came out and looked at the thermostat on the wall and it said it was 54 in here. So I was like, maybe I should turn the heat back on, So I did that. And it took the house a really long time to warm up. And that brings me to another point. My gas bill has been outrageous this winter, and I am starting to wonder if something is not right. And I know the house is old. Like I've said this before, my house was built in 1925. I need to have the windows replaced, but I'm having a hard time believing that one person is utilizing as much gas as the utility company says I am, especially because in the month of November, my bill was really high, like for the month of November when it was 72 degrees here, and I didn't even have the heat on until almost Thanksgiving. My bill was really high in November, and it was really high in December, and then in January it seemed more normal, and then it was really high in February. But here's the funny part: I was gone for like a half a month. Like I was like, what the fuck is happening here? So anyway, and I don't do a lot of laundry. I only do laundry like once a week. And maybe one load, and it's like maybe two if I'm like washing bedding. My dryer's gas, and I wash all my clothes on cold water. Like I don't mess around with the hot water crap, right? And I shower once a day. Like it's just, I run the dishwasher like every other day probably, so I don't know what's going on, but I'm gonna maybe have them come and do like an energy audit or something. Because it's pissing me off, with all due respect. Okay. So back to Wayne Wednesdays. Keeping up with my nutrition, going back to CrossFit. I've been keeping up with all the drama on the internet. I'm finally caught up, I should say. I did feel a little bit behind there for a while. In regards to Amberlynn, Reid, and Chantel Marie / Foodie Beauty, or whoever she is today, which is fine. She can call herself whatever she wants. Nobody cares. And I saw Amberlynn is back on Jenny Craig. This is not a reaction channel, but it is a reaction channel, but it's not a reaction channel. And I will say that it's easier for me to kind of silo and dissect down, like Amber's behavior versus Chantel. And so I've just tried to kind of compartmentalize some of the things. And I've kind of realized too, like, I'm trying to look at this from the point of view is like, I've been in her position. Like, obviously, like I was never as heavy as she is. And that's not a dig on her. It's just, it's reality, right? Like I, was about 300 pounds at my heaviest. And so, but if I separate out all the shenanigans, I can see the desperation, right? Or a feeling, maybe, and I don't know if that's the right way to describe it. And I don't know. I'm not in her head, but I'm just like, I used to do the same stuff. Like I used to try, like ask me how many times I've tried Weight Watchers. Ask me. It's more than once. Okay? More than once. And, and before I found like the magic bullet, right, for myself, right, which was training, and then just getting good nutritional support from, like my coach, right, and now I've kind of graduated into more sophisticated nutrition stuff, right, so, over time, and I toggle between my goals, right? Like sometimes my goals are weight loss, sometimes it's performance, sometimes it's both. Like right now it's both, right? Like I'm still trying to keep my performance up pretty high, but also still, bring my weight down a little bit too. Like, and I mean, it's less than 20 pounds at this point, but yeah, so I just feel like I kind of see a little bit of myself in her, and like, let's go back to Jenny Craig. And I understand why. Like, number one, she paid a lot of money for that stuff. And I don't care about like how much money a month she makes. And if anyone is like, oh, well, she can afford it. Like, who gives a shit if she can afford it or not? Like, she paid for like 2 years of that stuff, and you might as well do it, But if you go back and if you watch Shakara Transformations, like calorie count for her, like even if you take out like the day one where she, had like eat like extra stuff at night, binged, overate, whatever you want to call it, like it's not enough food, like girlfriend, like if you could eat 3,000 calories a day and still lose weight, like eat it, and like I wish I could eat that much and still lose weight. Like I just can't. And that's not, I'm not saying that to virtue signal or make anyone feel bad or whatever, but that's just where my body is, right? I'm just not at that point, right, where I can do that. And I probably never will be, because like I just, I will never be, I'll never have, the freaking, TDE to ever do that, I mean, God forbid, right? And I'm not a man. That's the other part. Okay, I said it. I'm not a man. I'll never be able to eat that many calories a day. I mean, I could, but it would just be very counterproductive towards my goals, right? So, but anyway, so, I get it, and I understand why she's going back to what she knows. And obviously, again, she paid for all this. So, so I do wish her the best, I really do. Like, and it was sad for me to see, like, she had posted up a weight or whatever the other day at like 545. And I felt bad for her. She's almost back to like her heaviest weight, within like 30, less than 30 pounds, and I mean, and she must feel awful, and so I just, I do really wish her the best. I really do. Like, and I'm sure she feels trapped in her body, and I have experienced that feeling, and certainly, like I said, I was never as heavy as Amber, but like it doesn't matter, right? Like even like in Alona, right, who's Shakara transformation, she had even said, she's like, I am uncomfortable when I gain like 5 or 10 pounds. And I never thought that I could relate to that until now, right? Where I can tell, right? Like my body feels different and like my performance is different if I'm even like 3 or 4 pounds heavier. And you wouldn't think, right, that would matter at all, but it does. Like, and especially I think for any of us who do like CrossFit, right? Let's just use that, because that's always my point of reference, because, I'm in the cult. Like pull-ups, okay? And like, I remember like some of the girls that I did CrossFit with, they used to be bodybuilders, right? And they would do these shows and then they kind of retired from bodybuilding and just did CrossFit full time. And, their weights kind of normalized back to, what they should be, right? or would have been, because they weren't cycling through these cuts like every year, like, 6 months out of the year, they were, very lean, if, and then they come out and they reverse that. And then, but they never really like restored their weight back to like their natural kind of settling point. They always, kind of were within 20 pounds of their show weight, but, now they're 40 pounds within their show weight, right? So the difference between doing pull-ups at 160 versus doing pull-ups at 180 is very different. And 20 pounds is 20 pounds. Like that's a lot. But I can tell the difference, like if I'm 186 versus 183, like it's weird, and you're like, oh, there's no way you can tell. There's no, you can, and so I can't imagine what it feels like, and I've been there, right? Like I've been there. I have felt trapped in my own body. So I understand what that feels like, and like for me, like I said, I was very fortunate. I found the magic bullet, and my magic bullet is going to be different than your magic bullet, right? So, but I do really wish Amberlynn well, and I hope that she sees some success with something, right? And hopefully maybe it's Jenny Craig. Maybe it is, maybe it's not. And I just think that like she could like double up on her food and still be losing weight every single day, so yeah, so we'll see what that ends up being like. And then Foodie Beauty is a whole different situation. And there's some things that I've noticed and just have, people have said that make a lot of sense. One of the things was you can tell like, she seems lonely, right? And I think that we all are probably experiencing that on some level. It's been a very long year and there's so much sadness and so much frustration, and people have lost loved ones and people have gotten COVID and they still don't feel well. Like they have this like extended, like kind of like COVID illness, and months go by and they still don't feel well, and then there's those of us who didn't necessarily have, like my experience, like we're not all in the same boat, but we are kind of all in the same storm, right? Does that make sense? And, so my boat has been, a little rocky sometimes, and it was hard for me not to see friends and family and, all these things and not be able to like celebrate buying a new house and, like just, lost time, right? And like my grandma's 90, like I'm not going to get this year back, and I didn't know a year ago that my dad was going to be gone. I didn't know that. I didn't know that his wife was going to die. Like, I didn't know that I would, a year later, still in the pandemic, 2 weeks to flatten the curve of my ass, like I didn't know I was going to be the executor of my dad's estate, and like I was going to have to do all this crap, and like work was going to be insane, and like still insane, and still trying to, help my manufacturing clients like recover from all this. And, but I was very fortunate. Like I didn't lose anyone to COVID. Like if you guys follow, Janice Dean, and she's, the weather meteorologist on Fox News, and she's on Twitter and stuff, and her in-laws both died in New York, and she has such a wonderful platform to bring attention to some of the stuff that was going on in these states. And can you imagine, like, and if you are one of those people, like, my heart breaks for you, like if your loved one died because of a decision that was made, by governors or mayors or whoever, and like that's awful, and just because it could have been prevented, and so, we're not all in the same boat, but we're in the same storm. Or maybe we are in the same boat, but we're not in the same storm. It's one of those things. But anyway, like with Chantel, like you can kind of tell, like, like I think the live streams are about money and ass pats and stuff? Sure. But I also think that she's lonely, to a certain extent too. And I've heard some other people say that. And I was like, that actually resonates with me a little bit. Like, there's a level of loneliness to it, and, there's some shenanigans, and I will say this, and then I'm going to wrap this up because this is much longer than I anticipated. My cousin died from an addiction, and she was my age. She was 41 when she died. And I had to learn to separate her actions, like her addiction, from her as a person. And that's kind of what I do with Foodie Beauty. And do I find her actions and her words and stuff and her behaviors problematic? Yes. Does that mean that I, like don't care about her as an individual? Like, obviously I don't know her, but you can have empathy for someone who is obviously struggling and whose life appears to be an absolute, what my brother would refer to as a shitnado. And it's where I struggle with her. It's not about the mukbangs. It's not about the, posts about like, oh, I'm going to change my life and it's going to be drastic. I have to. And the next day she's eating pizza and she eats pizza 6. It's not about that. What it is for me is like, it's the posts about, her, what appear to be giving her the benefit of the doubt, very serious health issues. And then the behaviors that take place after talking about that. And I understand she doesn't owe anybody anything. She doesn't. She really doesn't have justified behavior at all, right? None of us do, but it's when I see these things, right, where she's on the Ozempic for presumably type 2 diabetes. I don't know of any off-label uses for that drug, whatever. And, she's talking about having a biopsy on her leg, or on her skin for the rash or whatever she's had for a long time. And, like her stomach being upset all the time and her stomach pain and all these things. And then I see this stuff and I'm like, girl, what are you doing to yourself? Like, come on, and it is hard. It's hard to watch it. It really is. Because like, as a human being, as another woman, like you don't like to see another woman unless you're a petty bitch. And trust me, I am that way. Like, on occasion, I am as petty as the next one, right? Like, but you don't want to see another woman struggling like that. Like, it sucks, And so, so she's a whole other animal, and I don't mean that to degrade her. Like, she's a whole other situation, moment type deal or whatever. But you know what I mean? Like, but there's a lot going on there. But I do, again, with her, I wish her the best. And, hopefully she can figure out a way to, get herself into a better situation. And I personally feel like she just needs to stop putting out her health stuff. And I understand that drives the conversation, though. And it drives, like, that's her kind of her content. But yeah, so I wish her the best, too. And Amberlynn. I really do. Like, it's, and hopefully they can both get their S together. So anyway, all right, that's about it. I need to go take a shower because I stink. But I hope you guys are all having an amazing day. drink your water, eat your vegetables, eat some proteins and some healthy fats, get in your exercise, your walking, your yoga, whatever it is you do. Or if you're a crazy CrossFitter like me, 21.2 is this Friday, so I'll be sure to talk to you about how miserable that was. I cannot wait to see what Dave Castro has in store for us. Otherwise, I will see you guys next time, and we're almost on the other side of this COVID shit. Be smart, especially St. Patrick's Day. You know who you are. You do. Wear a mask. Wash your hands. Don't pick your nose. Don't rub your eyes. You know, we're almost there, guys. So, and if you're eligible for your vaccine, go get it, okay? If that's your thing. If you want to do it, go get it. If you don't want to get it, it's okay. Like, that's your choice. But yeah, we're almost there, guys. So hang in there, and I'll see you again. Thanks again for watching. Have a good night. Bye-bye.